Today we are going to make something that you can make with ingredients from your farm, your homestead, or the farmer's market. Homegrown, good old-fashioned, basic, yummy Amish farm meatballs. Well, welcome to Heritage Ways. I'm Miss Katie.
I'm Little Miss Homemaker.
And today we are outside. It's true that we do not have a homestead now. We did sell our farm last summer so we could full-time travel to find ways to serve and encourage folks across the nation. But our hearts are still at home. Our hearts still long for our next homestead, which we will settle in when the Lord is ready to show us where and when. In the meantime, we continue to have the farmhouse feel on the RV, and we do that in different ways. And one way that we do that is to cook good farmhouse type meals. So today we find ourselves with a dilemma. Now we live, when we're in Middle Tennessee, we have a home base, and that's a house we bought that one of our sons lives in. And if you've been following a while, you'll know what I'm talking about. And if you're new, you might want to go back and look at the playlist called Heritage Homestead Journey. Since that time, we have a second channel that tells more about, or that is dedicated to, our travels. But this channel is Heritage Ways, and it's about home, heritage, and hope. Well, today we have a dilemma, and the fridge that we have here that we use in the garage when we stay here, somehow half of the things in the freezer thawed. And a lot of those were good quality meats that I had purchased from Southern Ridge Farm and also from Evans Produce. So we're going to find a way to use these today since we have our dilemma. This second title to this could absolutely be what to do when all the meat thaws in your freezer. But the Amish don't have freezers, and we're using one of their recipes today. The first thing I did is make a list of things we could eat soon, how I could use this meat. And I decided that we're going to cook some for a lasagna. So 2 pounds will be used for that, and that recipe is actually found in my cookbook, From Katie's Kitchen Volume 1. And there's also a lasagna recipe here at YouTube, which is the same one in the cookbook. So you can look for that as well. I decided we could have taco salad. That again is in the cookbook. It's very versatile, and so I thought we could brown meat for that. We'll label it, put it in baggies so we'll know, and then we'll refreeze that. Also a tater tot casserole that's kind of quintessentially 1970s. Now it does contain condensed cream soups, but you can certainly make your own. That recipe is in the cookbook as well. There are over 205 recipes in my cookbook, a collection of family loved recipes and their stories. So I pulled out 3 of my go-to cookbooks that I thought would help me for this dilemma and what to do with the meat. And the first one is the Miller Family Cookbook. It's an Amish cookbook. I didn't find what I needed in there, but it's an excellent cookbook. I do have a video talking about the cookbooks that I do have on the RV. And then, of course, my cookbook, I will cook several of those recipes using the meat that thawed out today. If you're interested, there is a link down below to purchase the cookbook. So I hope you will be blessed by that purchase, because it actually blesses us when you make a purchase. It helps fund our journey to seek and serve and encourage folks. The other thing we're going to do is tell you how we're going to make basic meatballs. I pulled out this Amish cooking cookbook. I bought it from milestonebooks.com. It's put out by Pathway Publishers. We're going to make the recipe for meat patties, but we're going to make meatballs. It's a basic recipe, and the reason I chose that is because I want to be able to use these meatballs in whatever, whether it's a Polynesian dish, which Mr. Patient loves, or just a spaghetti and meatballs, or Swedish meatballs. So I wanted a basic meatball. We're going to make it out of some of these meats. I'm going to give you the recipe, tell you how, and then we're going to bake them and freeze them in baggies labeled so we'll know later. Also, there are other meatball recipes in here, but they have all kinds of herbs and spices, and we're not going to use those today. I did pull out to show you, you could use your dehydrated peppers. We dehydrated these a couple of years ago, and I have them in our tiny home, and that's an option of something you could add to your meatballs as well. You might have pigs on your farm, so we've got ground pork here, not sausage, just ground pork. Then we have ground chuck, so you might butcher your beef cattle, so you might have ground chuck. It calls for 4 eggs, so I bet you're going to have farm fresh eggs, which is what these are. These are from Benderman Farms, friends of ours, so we appreciate that. And then as we go on, we'll tell you what other ingredients goes in here, and I bet you will have the ingredients, especially if you operate a farm or homestead. So what we're going to do is simply put all 4 of these meats in our pot. Now, varying the meats really helps to add a different flavor and dimension to the meatballs. You can also use venison, which we also have in our freezer, and I could have pulled that out as well. Little Miss Homemaker's going to crack our eggs, and we're just going to do them one at a time. And as you crack them, just whip them a minute just to break it up, and then you can pour it in here. While she's doing the 4 eggs, it calls for 1 chopped onion. Remember, we're doubling the recipe, so if you just want to make a single recipe, you just half what I'm doing. Now we need 2 cups of cracker crumbs or bread crumbs. Now, you could use what I did, and you could use your leftover homemade bread that had gone stale and just make it into crumbs. That's what I did. Again, things you can find on the homestead or farm. Next, we're going to add a teaspoon of black pepper and 2 teaspoons of salt. If that seems to be too much for you, or if you use the salted cracker saltines, you might want to use less salt. The next ingredient, last one, is 2 cups of milk. Another thing you can find on a lot of homesteads. This is actually goat milk. So 2 cups of raw goat milk is what we're using. And we have our pans. The reason we're outside today is we're going to use this toaster oven to cook some of the meatballs. We're going to cook some in the convection oven inside my RV. You can also fry them. We're going to bake. We are going to use these pans. You can use parchment paper to line the pans to make it easier. But we're going to be also cooking more meat. So I just didn't want to fry the meatballs. I wanted to take advantage of my ovens. Alright, so we're going to add our milk in here. I'm actually not going to add it all at once. I'm going to see if I need it. I'm just going to mix it all together. It smells delicious. And remember, it's just basic meatballs. It really smells delicious. I think it's that onion making it so delicious smelling. I don't think it's going to need the whole 2 cups, so you be the judge. Add it as you need it. If you want to do a low carb, you can certainly probably leave out the crackers or the breadcrumbs, or use a low carb or like a low carb bread if you use such a thing, or a gluten-free bread if that's what your diet calls for. But this is just a good home yummy food. You can make this into the meat patties like the recipe describes. You could fry it up like hamburgers or pretend like it's a meatloaf. Oh, it's very versatile. Use your imagination. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to make the meatballs. We'll cook these. Let's bake these about 375 for 25 or so minutes. You be the judge. You'll know when they're done. And then let them cool and freeze them and bag them. So I'm just going to keep making these, and we will get them in the oven, bake them up. I bet they're going to make the house smell good. Alright, well, the meatballs are done in the outside oven. They're done in the inside oven. They smell, how did you tell them?
Delicious.
Tell them.
They smell so good. And I bet they taste good too.
They're going to be versatile. This is a versatile recipe. We will use it in all the ways that I've already mentioned. We could have meatball subs. I mean, there are all kinds of things you could do with these. And look how we pulled them together and we made so many meatballs. I would call these medium size, not large and not tiny, but I would call them medium size. And look how many we were able to pull together. And you know, it's much better than going to the store and getting those packaged meatballs. So we're going to let these cool. We will put them in baggies and we will label them with just basic meatballs. Don't underestimate basic, y'all. Do you like meatballs? I would love to know how do you use meatballs, whether you make them yourself or buy them at the store in the bag. What is your favorite way to use this versatile item? I hope we see you next week. Thanks for joining us, y'all. Bye-bye.
Bye.